Good question, matey. We found him in an exposed bunker 2 miles from here. He must have got to shelter when we heard the reports of the fog. Maybe he didn't get there in time and his lungs failed. We're not sure. His doctors put him in it. We found him like this and dragged him all the way back to his home with his people to face this situation like a man with us rather than hiding away underground. What are you going to do with me? Oh, I won't worry about yourself. You're like us. I doubt it, I murmured. It's him who has to worry. We thought we'd make him suffer, like all of his people we let down. Why do we need nuclear stations anyhow? We never use them, and I suspect he never paid for enough to keep him safe, and anyway, he knew about this fog, you see. Long before us, he was well away before it came, but kept it to himself and his rich buddies, see? And they all found themselves a nice underground grave to wallow in, whilst we already mortals up here died in our own filth. Not all of you, mind you. Now, I suspect his generals didn't factor that equation in, and now we will factor him in. Boys, open it up. The other 3 moved onto the iron lung and started to undo the buckles of the sides and expose the limp body and yellow stained of the Premier. What a stench, said one of the men nearest to the Premier. Looks as if his own body is decayed in there, rather metaphoric, don't you think? I watched in horror as they lifted the body of the Premier and slumped him on the floor. The way his body moved reminded me of a worm out on the soil as the sun began to shine, and soon a bird would come and bite off his head. The men started laying into him, punching his stomach, twisting his limbs, cutting veins on his legs. He yelled in pain between taking long stretches of breath. I do not know whether he felt the pain inflicted on his body, as it seemed so thin and lifeless already that maybe that pain was not felt by him. The thugs did not realize this, but their joy was just the same. The pain he was feeling was being exposed from the iron lung, unable to breathe as he could force his stomach muscles and lungs to pull in and out the air that is so essential for man to live. Soon his face went blue. His cheeks descended deep within his face, as did his eyes, and he took the last few breaths of his agonizing life. That's it, boys. He's gone. Never voted for him anyway. And with that they swaggered off. As I imagine, they must have come and left me close to the reeking body of the man that had once led this country. I wondered as I looked into his dead eyes whether he really deserved the death he was handed out, whether cowardice should be a crime. And yet it was not his cowardice, his retribution was in payback before, as the thugs had said. It was the fact that he withheld the situation to all the people, that he left to suffer worse deaths 1,000,000 times over than him. I left the Premier's office and walked towards the other side of the city. I did not see another soul. I decided after all this day's happenings that I would continue north towards my parents' house, the house in which I had been born. In the back of my mind I hoped maybe the fog had not reached that far, that possibly there could be people completely unaware of what had befallen us. Down another street, through a pathway, I saw a truck pull up and empty its load on a big fire. I walked nearer, but the smell answered my question long before my eyes did. The load on the truck was dead bodies, and they were being slung into the self-made furnace on the ground. I watched the flames rise, the embers float, as if the dead flesh flew up in its majesty like butterflies in the sky, the soul realized. But this sight only conjured up memories of how diseased cattle were indiscriminately bungled up and threw onto the fire all in a mess. It didn't seem right, somehow, not having the benefit of an orderly grave, where people could come and pay their respects. I came across a broken-in government security building. I squeezed through the open door into the darkness, which was occasionally lit up by flickering pictures. I walked towards the television set. It was playing back CCTV footage. It showed the Capitol as the fog floated in. Then I saw large amounts of people running, jumping into rivers. Their skin was burned dark grey in this black and white image. I saw the mass exodus of these people. After a while the river was quiet. The people died therein. There were other images of different locations playing. Not sure why. Maybe the operator left it on this loop in case someone should wonder what happened to this great city. But I was already too aware of this great calamity. I left the building and passed a big hotel and decided I would take a room for the night. I went to the reception area, pulled a few pairs of keys from the rack. I wished I had looked at the numbers, rather than just grabbing the first that had come to me, as I ended right up on the 63rd floor. Height was not one of my strong points, but I felt so tired I thought it wouldn't matter. I opened the first door but quickly slammed it shut as I saw the festering, worm-laden bodies of a couple. I dropped the keys outside the door and tried the next bunch. This time around the room was empty. I looked around all the rooms before I took a long bath and found a new set of clothing in the wardrobe. I tried ringing the phone but no one answered. No chance of room service then. I laughed. The bath had done me good. I felt clean and refreshed. But as I walked up to the window frame wall, I looked out at the dark city that lay in front of my view. How different it must have normally looked. What a beautiful sight. And now it was as if I was looking down upon the destruction of mankind. As I carried on looking around, I heard a massive explosion, and the room began to shake. I fell flat on the window, losing my feet, only the window and me between the 1,000-mile drop. I thought at first it might be another earthquake, that the genetic radiation had continued to alter Mother Nature's atoms. But as I continued to look down, I saw yards before the front of the hotel a tank. As I did so, I saw another missile launch from it, and straight into the lower grounds of the building. Again it shook. I felt as if at any moment the building would collapse. As I looked down, I saw the familiar number of 4 men. It must have been those thugs that had killed the Premier. I shouted down from the very top of the hotel, but there was no way they could hear me. Another missile packed its way into the side of the building. This time I heard a noise like bending steel. I felt the building visibly shift. It only took another missile, and then the building was loose. I felt the earth come up around my feet and back down again. I looked in front of me as I could see the ground coming towards me. The building was bending over, and I heard the steel snap. And the building began to plunge at a 45-degree angle towards the ground. As it did so, I felt the sensation of losing ground, much like an aeroplane as one lands. I felt the pressure and horrible sensation of falling. My stomach left me long before anything else. As I fell in what seemed an age, time seemed to slow down, as if the moment had been paused. My life flashed before my eyes. All the horrors I had seen, my wife laying on the floor, the day we met, the day we were married, my first day at school, college, university, my first real tears, laughter, all of it. Jenny, Valentine, Harkin, the Overgates, all of them. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Then I found myself calling out for God's help. Strange, I thought, why should he help me? For when my life had no problems, I never uttered his name. And the minute I was in trouble, I sought his help. But even so, when my wife died, I only blamed him. I never sought his help, but still I called out again. I felt the early floors of the building crash down on the floor. I knew it was only a matter of seconds till I would hit the ground. As the other part of the building crumbled into the floor, I was thrown by the force back from the window further in the building. Then I heard splinters of the front windows as the top of the hotel crashed to the ground. Black dust billeted through the air. Then I heard an ultimately thud, and the last thing I saw was darkness.